Welcome to the Leadership Buzz with Lloyd "Buzz" Buzzell, an International Coaching Federation credentialed coach, DISC practitioner, and retired Air Force colonel. During a military career spanning nearly 4 decades, 37 years of service, Buzz rose from enlisted airman to colonel, spending much of that time in nuclear operations, from missile alert duty to strategic command and control. Those experiences taught him that trust, discipline, relationships, and values are not abstract leadership ideas. They shape how people perform when the mission matters. Now, Buzz brings those lessons into conversations for leaders who want to grow in self-awareness and better align their behavior with their values. Each episode features one book, one idea, one story, and 3 coaching questions to help you reflect on your leadership. Work hard, tell the truth. Here's Buzz.
Hey, thanks, TJ. Hey, let me start with a confession. I like giving advice. I spent nearly 40 years in the military, and in that environment, leaders are expected to know those things. People bring you problems because they want some decisions. They want some direction, and they a lot of times want you to make the call. And in some of those roles I held, there wasn't always time for a long conversation. When you're on ICBM nuclear work or working in a command center, you can't respond to every situation with, "Hey, that's interesting. How does that make you feel?" Sometimes you just need to assess that situation, make that decision, and move. That instinct became part of me. I would see a problem, understand that problem, and then fix it, and hopefully before lunch. And that approach served me well in many situations. But leadership isn't always a command center, and not every person who brings you a problem needs you to solve it. Sometimes they just need space to think. Sometimes they just need someone to challenge those assumptions they had. And sometimes they already know what to do. But my advice arrives before they have that opportunity to do it for themselves. That's become one of the most important lessons in my development as a coach. And the hardest person I think I'll ever coach is myself. I have to be able to slow down and stop measuring my value by whether I have an answer or I get able to solve something right away. Just sit in that silence a little more. And that's why the book, The Advice Trap, hit so close to home for me. This isn't really about never giving advice. There's obviously moments when expertise, direction, and that clear decision are exactly what a leadership requires. The challenge is recognizing when our advice is genuinely helpful and when it's just satisfying our own need, my own need to be useful. So today I want to explore a deceptively difficult question. When someone brings you a problem, are you helping them think, or are you just taking over their thinking?
Last week, Buzz closed his 3-part series on teams that work by exploring how great teams continue to learn, adapt, and improve. Today, he turns that same question inward. Drawing from The Advice Trap by Michael Stanier, Buzz explores why our desire to help can so easily become an urge to provide answers, and why that tendency can be especially difficult to recognize in ourselves. We may know how to ask thoughtful questions, challenge assumptions, and help someone else see a new perspective. But can we do the same for ourselves? The hardest person you will ever coach may be the person looking back at you in the mirror. Over to you, Buzz.
Hey, before we really get started here, I just want to thanks for some of the feedback I've been getting. I got some very specific feedback. I'm trying to put that into action this week. And so I hope there's a different feel, and I'm interested to hear what people have to say about the podcast. I want to make it worthwhile. I want to make it like, hey, we're in the room together and we're talking about this subject. And so this week we're talking about advice and having answers. And when I went through the military, I had more than one situation where I was expected to have those answers. In one particular assignment, I walked into this new leadership position and realized there was a huge communication upgrade to our launch control center coming up. In our section, we were in charge of that, and we had to look ahead and get that done. So when I started kind of asking around, not a lot of the forefront type issues had been taken care of. So we went ahead and called in the team, and we just started asking questions and tried to kind of formulate a plan. And that took a little while to get done itself. So as a leader, you're trying to keep the team on track to where they're supposed to be going. And so asking those questions people started getting the rhythm of, hey, we need to get these things done. We need to get that done. We need to get a plan of action done. And then we had to brief our boss, my commander, on where we were. And it was surprising that once we got the ball rolling, people had it. I mean, all that we really needed to do, and myself as a leader, was keep people on track. But looking ahead, not a lot of the initial planning had been done, and that was really good thing to get us on. So I guess as a leader, looking ahead and having that answer is great. But sometimes, like if you try and step in and people are already on track and you're like, hey, I think you should do this and you should take care of that, that doesn't really work in that operational environment. People have been trained to do what they need to do on a checklist as they go on alert, as they get things done. What you as a leader are trying to do is you're trying to look ahead and trying to foster that environment where you can plan for things that are coming up. Leadership's not always about a command center, and not every person who brings that problem needs me to solve it. But in that situation with a communication upgrade, I needed to step in and kind of take the lead on it and make sure that we were on the right road. And then sometimes these people, as I said, just need to have some space to think. And sometimes your team just needs someone to challenge an assumption. Hey, how come we haven't done X? How come we haven't done Y? And why aren't we taking care of Z? And sometimes they already know what to do. And then, my advice gets in front of them. And that creates an issue that I don't want to have come up.
Buzz, did you ever give someone advice as an officer and it was ignored?
Yeah, this happened more than once, but I can think of one time in particular. And it wasn't an operational thing, but it was more of an assignment thing, a promotion thing for an officer that had come in and asked for my advice on how to do better, how to get ahead, how to reach some assignment goals and where he was trying to go. And after reviewing the record and talking to him and asking him what he wanted to get done, he had a different view of how to get that done. And it was time compressed in the first place, so it was going to be pretty hard to achieve that. But some of my advice was about trying to figure out what his boss's priorities are and were, and trying to work to those priorities. And that he really needed to feel that inside of him. In other words, he had to look at his values and see where he was, the Air Force, and where his boss on the unit was. That's how he was going to get ahead, by making himself more valuable to the unit, to make himself more valuable to his boss, because that's how you get promoted. They're trying to see in you how you can be capable in the future and your future potential. And he wanted to go on his own route and just get the easy answer to move ahead. And that just wasn't going to work. And it never really works in the military. You have to kind of see where your values are. You have to see where the Air Force is. And you also have to see where the unit and your boss are, because they're trying to work things. And if you're not working their priorities, that would be a problem. There's a fine line between that, about giving that advice and about giving direction. And in an operational environment, there are things that are must-dos. There's checklist items, there's compliance items, there's weapons system safety rules and nuclear weapons. There's things that you just have to do. They're non-negotiable. But there are also techniques in those type things. There's ways to do things, and there's ways not to do things. And there's best leadership practices and there's best operational practices. And there are moments when that leadership, as a leader, you need to step in. And there's where the person that has done it before can show the person that hasn't done it, or the person that can do it better or has done it better can show the new person the ropes and how it's supposed to be done. And many times in operational environments, I really tried to identify, hey, this is what you have to do. This is non-negotiable. The rest of this is technique or how I do it, and this is how I think the best way to do it is. That is absolutely true sometimes in nuclear type weapons and command and control. There are things that we have to comply with. There's no doubt in anybody's mind that how you go from A to B is just as important about achieving B in nuclear weapons. But there's also many things where it's technique, or this is the way I do it, and this is the way I was shown to do it, and this is the way that you could do it if you want to. And by blending those type of best practices, you come out with a stronger team. And your team, you want to be able to succeed as a unit and work together. So those moments when stepping in too quickly, though, keeps someone else from stepping up. And sometimes it's just letting the person do the job without pressing them too hard right at that moment. I had a fellow officer, a peer, that I thought I really had the answer to what was going on with him. I could solve all his problems by giving him the answers on how to get ahead and be a better missile leader, just like me. And I really feel that that was a wrong move now, because I really feel, and I'll say it over and over again, insight is far more powerful when it is discovered than when it's delivered. So when a person discovers the answer, it's going to be a lot stronger. So how do we tame that advice monster? I'm practicing 3 simple moves. First, you got to notice the urge. Then second, wait. Why am I talking? And then ask one more question before offering an answer. I use the word wait. Why am I talking? WAIT. But I also use it as, hey, what is the emotion behind the words that they're saying to me? And so instead of just giving the advice right off the bat, I try and figure out how they're feeling about it. And maybe just set in way they want to become. So the goal is not to become a leader with no answers. It is to become a leader who does not need to be the answer to every single problem. I'll share one success with you, I think, is just using silence as a leader. And silence is difficult for even experienced leaders, especially leaders who've spent a career being really rewarded for having an answer. Like when we're expected to have an answer, we get rewarded for that. And so I had an officer come to me that was experiencing a lot of personal problems and a lot of issues in the squadron. I literally just, maybe it was because I was tired that day or because I was being thoughtful, but I just sat there and listened to her. She was very emotional, and she just got a lot off her chest and be able to tell me everything that was going on with her. At the end of well over an hour, when she left, she said, "Hey, I really appreciated you listening, and this was the best thing that's happened to me in the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks because it just made me feel better, and I think I really now understand more." Well, I hadn't asked any questions at all. So really, silence can feel like nothing is happening, but it's where the most important thing is happening. And this is true in coaching, this is true in leadership, and this is also including, at home, like in front of your peers, in front of your family, your spouse, because sometimes people just need that space, because really people are really just trying to be seen, heard, and understood. And that's regardless of where they are in life, what they're working on, how much wealth they have, the material possessions. They really just want to be that seen, heard, and understood. I mean, that is what we're all really seeking. Hey, before I close, I want to say something about the podcast. I want to make it better. This episode was a step in that direction, but I don't think I've completely landed on it yet. I'm still learning how to do it, how to sound less like maybe just reading something to you and more like I'm just sitting across the table in the same room. And it will get better. I spent nearly 40 years in the military, and much of that time was in nuclear ops. I sat hundreds of alerts, flew on looking glass, spent thousands of hours in command centers with people, and leading teams. There are stories from that part of my life that I haven't really told. There's stories about this leadership, the pressure, mistakes, trust, decisions, and all those people along the way that taught me that stuff. I want to bring more of those stories to life. Just to not talk about my military career, but to find the leadership insight inside those moments and share it with you. Your time is valuable. If you give me 15 to 20 minutes to listen, I want to make it worth your while. So my promise to you is I'm going to keep working at this. It's probably going to be less perfect. I want it more personal. I want some more stories and hopefully something useful you can carry into your own leadership on a day-to-day basis. And I really do appreciate you listening, and I really look for your feedback as we press forward. This is really important for me to get it right and need your help to get there.
Buzz, as our listeners think about turning some of that coaching curiosity toward themselves, what 3 questions would you leave them with this week?
Okay, here's 3 coaching questions. Tell me about a recent conversation when you felt that urge to jump in and give advice. So what was happening for you? And then also describe what might become possible if you just stayed curious and just asked one more question. Then tell me how you will practice creating ownership instead of dependence in your next conversation.
Thanks for joining us for this week's conversation, inspired by The Advice Trap by Michael Stanier. Today, Buzz reminded us that becoming more coach-like is not only about how we lead others, it is also about how we respond to ourselves. Learning to notice our urge to provide answers, pause before trying to fix everything, and replace self-judgment with genuine curiosity may be some of the most difficult coaching work we ever do. The hardest person you will ever coach may be yourself, but that may also be where your most important growth begins. Thanks for listening to the Leadership Buzz. Back to you, Buzz.
Thanks for listening to the Leadership Buzz. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe so you don't miss future conversations. And if you have a moment, leave a rating or review. That helps other leaders discover the show. If these kinds of leadership questions resonate with you and you'd like to explore them more deeply, feel free to reach out to me. Coaching conversations often start exactly this way. Until next time, work hard, tell the truth.